Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Leitner? Here. Commissioner Walls? Here. Commissioner Rice? Here. Commissioner Duckham? Commissioner Alexander? Present. Commissioner Mahoney? Here. Commissioner Placzek? Commissioner Elwell?
Here.
Chairman Shotwell? 7.
Here. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, Administrator Overton.
My mic works. Interesting. My mic was working and it wasn't even turned on. Good morning, yes. Don't get me laughing this morning. This morning, first up, let's see.
Well,
All right. First up this morning, we have, are they here?
No, not yet.
All right, then we will go to Region 2.
I know, right?
Step up to the other podium there, please, and present.
Hi, good morning. Region 2 is seeking a 10% local match to create a new non-motorized transportation plan for Jackson County. We've secured a 10% local match from the city and a resolution of support from County Parks and Rec Board of Commissioners. And while Region 2's current non-motorized transportation plan is sufficient under the federal guidelines, we are seeking to hire a contractor to make a more robust plan. This is going to allow us to apply for more grant opportunities and to kind of get a cohesive vision for the county and the city as a whole. So the amount of local match that we're looking for is $5,000. The city has already resolved to provide $5,000, and Region 2 will be providing $40,000 in federal planning funds. Have any questions about what we're looking to do?
For Mike, where will the money come from?
It's a non-budget expense. We'd have to draw it from general fund.
Just for the rest of the commission, at the last supervisors meeting, the parks director was there and he gave a wonderful presentation. He also spoke of this non-motorized plan. This is going to be very essential to connecting the city to the trail that's going to run out past the prison out to Stockbridge. So I know it's $5,000, but it's a match that'll be well spent.
I support it, but why wouldn't we have heard about it, or why wouldn't it have been planned to coincide with our budget? Would have been better than to deal with it right after, right?
Because of the federal requirements attached to our planning funds at Region 2, it was difficult to get it put together before the budget was passed. So in addition, we create what's called a unified work program annually, and we had to amend our work program before we could request local match from the county. So the times just didn't line up.
And are you seeking approval today? Or
No.
next month you're coming back?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what I thought.
Yes.
Just for the record, excuse me, at the Parks Commission, I did ask the question, why would the funds not being allocated from the Parks budget, and why was it coming to the full board? And I don't know if you'd like to explain the answer they gave instead of me trying to summarize.
I was not at that meeting. Mr. Duke, our director, was at that meeting, so I'm not sure what the answer was. I spoke with Mr. Overton, and he thought that bringing it to the full commission would allow everybody to comment. And what we're really seeking to do is get everybody involved. We want everyone's input. And so taking it to the full commission, we'd be able to do that.
Any other questions, concerns, or otherwise? If not, you plan to come back next month and seek approval?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Are they almost here? Yeah.
Yeah, they should be walking off the building anytime.
Should we
can go-
Should we go ahead?
Yeah,
All right.
they can go last.
Rick, if you come up and introduce your guests, we're going to talk about enterprise fleet leasing.
Good morning, everyone. As you know, we're always looking to do things faster, better, and cheaper. And when Enterprise approached us and brought forth this plan for vehicle leasing, it's something that's been in place in other counties, other cities. It made sense enough that we've looked into it to the point where we're standing in front of you today with the chance to offer up questions and answer any concerns that you may have. So with that in mind, we have Jason and Deanne from Enterprise with us that can explain more of the nuts and bolts, but what we're looking for this morning is just permission, consensus being sought to move forward with this proposal and bring it forward to the November round of meetings. As you know, in our general fleet, we have 71 vehicles. These are spread out over the Health Department, Facilities Department, Equalization, the Treasurer's Department, Parks Department, Department on Aging, both courts, Friend of the Court, the Youth Home, and the airport. These are just generalized vehicles from plow trucks to little Ford Focuses going out in the field for the Health Department nurses. The average age of our fleet's about 7.5 years. Our oldest vehicle is a 1995 GMC plow truck, and our newest is a 2016 Parks plow truck. We've crunched some numbers. We have some good preliminary results where, with the help of finance, our annual maintenance costs are $81,792, and our annual fuel costs are $94,548. So how all this wraps in is, right now, we have 22 vehicles in our fleet that are over 10 years old. I think it's a good testimony to all the departments that we have 22 vehicles that are over 10 years old that are still on the road, and our maintenance costs are not astronomical. But, as you know, in our budget, we can only budget to replace 5 or 6, maybe 7 vehicles per year. Again, I'm talking about general fleet, not the Sheriff's Department or JDOT. So, with that in mind, if we went with something like the Enterprise lease proposal, we would be able to replace up to 25 vehicles in 1 year using the amount of capital that we would normally spend on 5 or 6 vehicles by going through this lease program. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to Jason, because you'll probably be able to make more sense out of this than I'm doing.
I hope so. Thank you. Thanks for all your hard work on this, too. I appreciate it. Good morning. Jason Weiss. I've been with Enterprise Fleet Management for it'll be 25 years in November. I've spent the last several years. This one work? I can.
See, from here, it sounds nice and loud.
It does. It does.
Now you'll be even louder.
I've spent the last couple years around the state of Michigan working with other local units of government, counties, cities, and townships, as well as some special districts and school districts on programs like this. And it seems to be working great. I was originally referred directly to Jackson County by another one of our clients, Midland County, who test piloted this program a year ago. The county administrator controller up there referred me to Mr. Overton, and we began a dialogue on the program. I can do one of two things, whatever you're most comfortable with. I can either run through the full analysis, or I can open it up to questions and go from there, whatever you prefer.
I think you should run through it. Does everyone have this graphic in front of them? I mean, and do we have paper copies for those who don't have their machine? Can we make a motion to accept?
Give me your analysis, please.
Entertain a motion to accept.
Support.
We have a motion and support. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, duly carried. There you go.
Here, Deanne. Thank you. While Deanne's passing this out, I guess just by way of overview, what we're finding across the state is that many local units of government have found themselves in the position due to either budgetary challenges or just reaction from things that have happened with the economy over the years, is that this is an area where they have attempted to save money and these fleets have aged. And unfortunately, cars break. So what we found in most local units of government is they have traditionally bought vehicles, held them for as long as they possibly can, and then replaced them on an as-need basis. What we believe that we've proven with this analysis, and it's working around the state as well as around the country, is that we believe that we can significantly drive down your operational costs on these vehicles, and specifically in the areas of maintenance and fuel, as well as increase the resale, and turn them quicker. When you turn them quicker, there are also some, subjective benefits as well when it deals with things like safety, employee morale, those sorts of things. But we typically start with the math. So if we can't save money, then okay. So I guess what I'll do is real quickly, I'll just kind of explain what these documents are. This first document, this is the information that Rick provided to me. This is the list of vehicles that we're talking about. And you can see that what we're talking about is we have the department, the vehicle type, year, make, model, and we have your current odometer. If you look on the far right-hand side, there's a column that says FRS, that stands for Fleet Replacement Schedule. Basically, what we've done is using some fleet replacement criteria, we've said this is the model year that we believe these vehicles should be replaced going forward. We're trying not just to put together a one-year plan, we're trying to put together a plan that's sustainable going forward as well, okay? So you can just have that as a reference point for you as we go through the analysis. The next page is this one. If you could take a look at this. So where we start is if you look in the upper right-hand column, we try to put together some best practice fleet replacement criteria as to what is the appropriate time to replace a vehicle to keep its total cost of ownership as low as possible. In your case, we had to be a little conservative with that because we actually feel that the numbers are a little bit lower. We think that they should be turned a little bit faster. It just wouldn't be realistic. We would have to return the entire fleet. So the criteria that we use, for example, is that for the fiscal year 2017, if we find that a vehicle is 10 years old or older, or it has over 100,000 miles, we're slating that as a vehicle to be replaced right now. And then this takes it down year after year. What this shows, if you look down into the initial analysis, is that in 2017 we've identified, and Rick has already identified the specific vehicles, 25 vehicles that we're targeting for replacement. The following year would be 13, then 6, then 6, and then we kind of start over again, 21 in that following year, and it's going to keep going. So if you want to just keep that handy as well, this is what drives the math, which is the document that you all had in front of you. So I was going to run through the financial analysis real quick. So the easiest way for me to explain this is that I'd like to start by walking you through the top of the sheet. It says current fleet 71, those are the 71 vehicles that Rick spoke to. Where it says fleet growth 0%, in many counties we find that there are vehicles that are significantly underutilized, and we may actually recommend getting rid of them and not replacing them at all. In this case, all 71 vehicles are being utilized, so if you go to the right, you'll see that we're going to keep the fleet at 71 vehicles. Current cycle, 13 years, what that means is using the model year of these existing vehicles, it would take you 13 years to replace the entire fleet if you keep replacing vehicles at the pace that you're on. Annual miles, 6,800 miles, that is the average number of miles that these vehicles are driving. Obviously, there are some vehicles that drive more, there are others that drive less, but 6,800 miles, this is your data, is what they're driving. We are going to propose turning these vehicles every 5 years, proposed cycle 5 years. And then really the most important number for the analysis, current maintenance, $96. And that is a number that you provided to me. I believe we went back and we got some maintenance history over the last couple of years, and that's using your own maintenance data. What that means is you're spending $96 per month per vehicle on maintenance right now on these 71 units. Obviously, there are some vehicles that aren't spending 96, but then if we have a transmission that needs to replace, that's a big number, and you divide it back through the analysis. So that is your current number is $96. Okay? Let me stop there. Any questions on that number? Because that was something that you needed to provide to us.
About 5 years.
2011.
On that number, I will say one of the things that I would ask you to keep in mind is that that's a number that we got looking backwards, which means that if you don't replace the vehicles, they're just going to get another year older, or they're going to keep getting older, and I would anticipate that that number if you continue doing what you're doing, that number logically should only go up because the vehicles would continue to get older, because we're doing a backwards look going back over the 5 years. We then looked at insurance. Insurance would be the same on either side of the ledger. I believe you're self-insured.
Correct.
So you're going to continue to self-insure regardless of the program. Proposed maintenance, there is an enterprise maintenance program where we can guarantee all maintenance within the body of the funding for the vehicle. And based on the miles that you're driving, the average would be $30. The logic there is that if we don't keep vehicles 10 years and over 100,000 miles anymore, we only keep them 5 years and let's call it 40,000 based on your average, you really aren't doing a whole lot of maintenance anymore. You're just doing preventative maintenance and oil changes, so we would be comfortable guaranteeing that maintenance for a much lower number. And then the last factor that we did is we tried to figure out what your estimated miles per gallon is on the existing fleet, and we came up with 12 miles per gallon, and that was a combination of our national averages that we see for a fleet this age, as well as you going back and looking at some of your own data as well. Correct? And then we need to plug in a number, a price per gallon for the cost of fuel. Obviously, that goes up and down, but we use $2.35. Yes, sir? Per vehicle per month. Correct.
Cost of registration?
Well, because we have municipal plates, it just goes from one vehicle to the next.
Exactly.
You know, the only cost we ever incur is when we have to purchase new plates. And I believe that's $10 a plate, if I'm not mistaken.
So those are the criteria that we used to do the math. And in this case, and again, credit to Rick, usually one of the challenges that I have putting this program together is I use a lot of national best practices, but typically it's very difficult for local units of governments to come up with some of their data because of the way it's been accounted for over the years. I feel very good about this analysis because we're able to use a lot of your own numbers, which is fantastic. I usually don't get that benefit, so it's very nice.
Well, if I may, Jason, this is because when we closed the fleet garage and started outsourcing our maintenance, we were able to capture really accurate data. I just wanted to interject that.
So let's go through the math real quick. The first line, which is the yellow line, is if you were to continue doing business as you've been doing it. So what that line means is if we go from left to right, we have 71 vehicles. You are typically purchasing about 5 to 6 vehicles per year, which means that you would need to come up with approximately $129,000 worth of cash to go ahead and buy them. Your maintenance budget would be just under $82,000, which is again that $96 spread over those vehicles. Your fuel budget would be $94,000, which is the 71 vehicle fleet getting 12 miles per gallon, driving 6,800 miles, paying $2.35. Just a math problem. So you have a fleet budget of $305,000. I approached these gentlemen with the concept of replacing 25 in the first year instead of just buying 5. And the way that the math works is that your own fleet would go from 71 down to 46. Your vehicles with Enterprise would obviously go from 0 up to 25. There'd be no money in the purchase column because we're not going to buy these. The estimated sum of the lease payments on the 25 Enterprise vehicles would be approximately $123,000, just under $123,000. What happens with your maintenance budget is it drops from 81 down to 62, and it drops because those 25 vehicles are now going to be maintained at $30 a month instead of the $96. Go 2 columns over, your fuel budget drops from 94 down to 86 because the 25 new vehicles that are going into service are going to average 16 miles per gallon as newer vehicles, newer makes and models. So again, it's just a math problem there. The minus 25,000, this is an area that I think we're being maybe even a little too conservative on. What we're saying here is that if we bring you 25 new vehicles, there are 25 old vehicles that you already own that are going to be taken out of the fleet and they're going to be sold. We know that those vehicles, we know the age and miles, so we're estimating that we would only get $1,000 per vehicle if we sell them. That's why I have the negative 25. The reality is, and Rick and I have talked about this, I'm very comfortable you're going to get more than 25. I just haven't physically seen them, so I don't like putting a number down on paper. I want to be careful with that.
Rick, how many of these first 25, when I look at the list, they're pickup trucks typically, some have plows, so what would the plan be for that, to leave the old equipment with the vehicle and then buy new equipment for the new vehicles?
Wherever we can, David, what we would do is... Whatever we would do, David, is reuse the plows when we can. We may have to buy new mount kits, but again, we have the money in our budget to do that from the fleet side, because when all this started coming forward back in April, at least from the facility side, we deferred on purchases until we vetted this whole process out. So whatever we would have to purchase in terms of plows, we would buy a universal type plow so we could use it from truck to truck to truck instead of what we've inherited and have now.
I think there's another question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Rick, I know, before we go any further, I know there's, I know that we were approached on this, but I was doing some, little bit of research, and I know there's other groups out there, Merchants, Acme, et cetera. There's several of them out there. Have we tried to compare at all with what they have to offer out there?
We have not yet, Carl. It's Enterprise came to us first. No one else approached us, and as per our county policy, if you know, we would have to reach out to other folks too. But again, Enterprise came to us first.
The net result of the analysis is conservatively, we believe we can bring you 25 new vehicles and save approximately, have a net cash savings of approximately $60,000 in the first year. If we extrapolate this out over a 10-year period, we believe there's slightly over $200,000 worth of savings, with the concept being moving from a, what I would call buy and hold fleet program to more of replacing the vehicles faster and only funding the portion of the vehicle that you're going to use, is the concept. The second part, which I'm happy to answer questions about as well, is there's a whole second side of this that's more operational in nature in terms of web capabilities, reporting, the specifics about how we handle maintenance and fuel and the remarketing piece, that after conversations, we believe would be a significant benefit to the county as well. But I wanted to spend my time today focusing more on the financial piece of the analysis.
And if I could go back to Carl's question real quick. Also, the other counties that have vetted this process out, we would be allowed to piggyback on their results. And what county was that? I don't remember.
Yeah, I can, do you want me to address that question? So obviously that question comes up in almost every, unit of government that I speak with, regardless of whether it's a city, township, or county. And basically, as we see it, there's a couple different options. One, of course, if an entity decides to put out some sort of a formal RFP for fleet management services, Enterprise is ready, willing, and able to participate in that process. We completely understand that and embrace that. There is also a couple of national cooperative purchasing groups who have done national RFPs for fleet management, where we've been the award winner for that. So I've had some units of government who have essentially piggybacked off of those national ones. And then third, because of the relationships that I've created around the state, I've agreed to make my contract extendable as well. And the specific counties that were in question here were Grand Traverse County and Midland County. But there are several other counties that are involved in these conversations as well. But those were the two, Grand Traverse County and Midland County, where we already have the exact contract in place.
Doesn't the state of Michigan, through the My Deal contract, have leasing also, I think, with what, Wheels Incorporated?
Yeah, there is two-part answer to that. Yes, there is obviously the My Deal program, which allows you to go ahead and purchase vehicles off of My Deal. This is more comprehensive than just purchasing vehicles. Obviously, this involves full-blown fleet management. There is a link on their website where there are leasing services that you can get through Wheels, which is what has the state contract. We're obviously very comfortable with our program and all the services that it entails, and we believe that we're the top provider.
But doesn't the state of Michigan lease most of their vehicles? I think even their state police vehicles are leased through Wheels.
I don't know the specific numbers. I know that Wheels has the state contract, whether they lease them or buy them. And I know that I have several agencies that I've done business with who have looked at both programs and have elected to go with us. Obviously, that's a decision entity by entity.
Other questions? Anything to, yes, sir, Daniel.
So I'm just curious how we would move forward with this. Would this like be compared to some other programs similar to this?
How I would approach it, Daniel, is using the contracts that were in place for Midland or Grand Traverse and piggyback on those. And unless, of course, you guys direct me otherwise, or direct me otherwise.
I would like to say, to answer that, though, there's still one step that needs to be done on the enterprise side before we would ask for any sort of commitment, is that the numbers that I've given you in terms of the lease cost is still somewhat approximate. The way that it works, as opposed to, you're familiar with My Deal, what we're going to do is that we approach the manufacturer on behalf of the county. You have what's called a fleet identification number with all the manufacturers. What's going to happen is that we're using your fleet identification number to get the incentives that the manufacturer is going to give you based on being a government entity and the anticipated volume. So what we've done so far is that we've gone through and we've identified, okay, if we have this pickup truck, we know we want to replace it with a compact SUV. So we've taken an estimated cost for what that compact SUV is going to be. What we haven't done is gotten the information back from the manufacturer and specifically compare, for example, the Ford Escape versus the Chevy Equinox versus the Jeep Cherokee. We haven't sat down with Rick and his team to figure out exactly how do we want these vehicles equipped. You know, I assume we want cloth seats, but we haven't asked those specific questions. What we've done in this analysis is that we've treated this very conservatively. We believe that the numbers are going to get better. We would then have a final number for you once we do that, and obviously you're not committed to anything until you see the final number. So this is more of a proof of concept overview.
More for Rick. Rick, you talked a little bit about patrol cars, and that was one of my questions, but what about the non-marked law enforcement vehicles, like the detectives' cars and sheriff's car and undersheriff's car?
They would fall
Into this group? Okay.
That was how we started our relationship with Grand Traverse County, was through their sheriff's department for all their administrative, unmarked and non-patrol vehicles.
A couple comments on my part. One, I would add that the reason the number's 25 initially is because that's what it takes to meet the threshold for special pricing from the manufacturers. That's why you have that number there. And as you indicated, we're looking to see what that will or will not be. At this point, you took the basic numbers and you believe that it will be this or better. And then the other part about, as far as competitive bidding and all that sort of thing, frankly, the intent is, we'll look at Grand Traverse and Midland. What did they do? Meaning, did they go to bid? What have they done? I don't really know what they've done. I know the managers, Bridget and them personally, so it's not a hard thing to do. Give them a call. But and then frankly, push come to shove, we can go out and repeat what they've done if need be. Frankly, if they've done the process as I expect, in particular that Bridget in particular would do, knowing her, it would not necessarily be, it wouldn't be necessary. But yet again, as Rick alluded to, that is up to the prerogative of the board on that. But first, we should at least look at what they've done and bring that and talk about it more. But at this point, I think, Daniel, the question, or in regard to your question, we're not exactly sure yet. It depends. We're not looking for approval today or anything. We're looking for, a little head nod and basically to saying, yeah, we aren't totally opposed to, because this is very different than what we do. We currently buy and hold. And if we get lucky, we have a car that lasts and doesn't have a transmission or this or that problem. If we don't, well, then, it costs us a little more. Whereas as was alluded to, with a lease program, we always have a vehicle that is 5 years or newer, has the if you will, the better fuel economy, and frankly, it gives us some opportunity for right sizing as well. We noticed that some of vehicles, what was it, the nurses are driving pickup trucks?
Yes.
Small ones, but pickup trucks nonetheless, and we're like, no, that really shouldn't be. I'm not really sure why they are, but they are. And as well as, wasn't it the sanitarians were also feeling that they were driving pickup trucks, but they don't need them. So we're looking to make some changes in that respect to a vehicle that is more appropriate in consultation with, those particular directors and department heads. We don't want to necessarily just force something on them. There may be some good reason that they need a pickup truck. We just don't know what it is.
Right, but with the Department on Aging, though, Marcy has very
Specifics
specialized
for,
needs.
yeah, Meals on Wheels and the like.
But her fleet costs are very high because those vehicles are just out all the time. So a 2006 Chrysler minivan for Marcy, the maintenance costs, a lot of times it's more than what the vehicle is worth if we sold it. It's just, by virtue of the way we're doing this, that's how it operates.
I'll just tell you my opinion. I'm a tough sell on it, but I'll continue to look at it, and I think we should. But I just want time to think about it and crunch the numbers and that and hear more about it. And I'll probably have more questions along the way.
Yeah, we anticipated that, that's why we're bringing it now, just to introduce the idea. And frankly, from my perspective on it, we've talked about, we believe there's going to be savings, but from my perspective, even if it's break even, we're way ahead of the game. We have always a nice, fresh, newer-looking vehicle, better safety, better economy, better, there's all those pluses that are hard to put they're kind of intangible, employee morale and all those things. But if we can do all those things and at break even, for me, that'll do it.
Last thing for me, one of the things I think I had read somewhere in there was about GPS tracking, or did I not read that?
It's an option that's offered.
Okay, so that's not part of the proposal then?
No.
Not
Okay.
yet.
I have one. We have small agencies that are involved with the county that are affiliated, but don't directly derive their budgets from us. Would they be able to participate in this type of lease program also? I'm thinking of medical care facility if they had a vehicle, or Lifeways if they had 3 or 4 vehicles only. Yeah, would they be able to participate in something like this underneath the county umbrella?
I can.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be a
Wait,
problem at all.
We just had this conversation on Friday with Ottawa County. They have a very similar situation. There is a assignment clause within our contract. The way that the contract is written is it says that there is no assignments unless approval from the lessor. So what we would do is we would look at those agencies, and if we're comfortable with exactly what they do and how they would use the vehicles and how, it would be structured running through the county, we would have the opportunity to be able to extend assignment. We would then set those folks up separately, so they, in theory, could have their own separate billing and reporting and everything, so it could all be kept separate. We would just look at it on an entity-by-entity basis.
In knowing the fleets that both those folks have, it wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, great idea.
The challenge with those, where that's going to get tricky, is that if we actually write a contract in a different entity's name, if they don't have a fleet identification number, it's not going to allow them to get the government incentives that are going to bring the price of the vehicle down. So we would need to structure it in a way where it's actually under the umbrella of the county, where the county would be the contract holder essentially, and then we'd set them up as what we call a sub-customer. We want to make sure we get them the incentives so they can get the purchasing power benefit.
If nothing else, we will see you back next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sarah, would you like to introduce our guests? Next.
We have the Springport FFA Parliamentary Procedure Team and their coach, Megan Merrill, who's also the ag teacher at Springport. So we have Gracie, Destiny, Cassandra, Maddie Camburn, Kate Henny, and Emmy Dyer. She's my boot twin this week.
So like Sarah said, my name is Megan Merrill. I've been teaching at Springport High School for 13 years, and the honor of being the FFA advisor and being able to work with these wonderful students. And so this is the second team in Springport's FFA history to win the state FFA Parliamentary Procedure Contest. And so these ladies are going to be traveling to the National FFA Convention in just 3 short weeks. Down in Indianapolis, Indiana is where it's at this year, and they're going to be competing to represent the state of Michigan, along with all of the other states in the Parley Pro contest. We call this the Super Bowl of career development events because this is the most popular contest at the state or at the National FFA Convention. And so just to give you a little bit of background, obviously we use Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised 11th edition, as our parliamentary authority. The students that compete in the contest will take a test. They have the opportunity, if they get 80% on that test, they are nationally certified parliamentarians. And so that's kind of a nice credential that they can gain. So they're studying up on their Robert's Rules of Order to be able to do that as well. So they take a test. They will perform a meeting. They have to perform their meeting in under 10 minutes and 30 seconds. And so they're meeting agenda item today, and so this gets assigned to them. They have to organize a blood drive at our school. And during their meeting, they have to demonstrate 5 motions according to Robert's Rules of Order. And so today they have to demonstrate postpone indefinitely. And this is a motion that will kill the motion. And so this is something that is used if you want to actually get rid of a motion. They have to use limit or extend the limits of debate. You're only allowed 2 debates on a pending motion, and so this would limit or extend that. Object to the consideration of a question, which will eliminate a motion from being on the floor. Parliamentary inquiry, where you can ask a question about parliamentary procedure, and they have to demonstrate the privilege motion to adjourn. And so for their meeting, they are assigned a different ability to demonstrate. And so essentially what they end up getting is they're going to get a card. It's going to be highlighted. That's the one that they have to do. They can't do any other one, but the team has to be able to demonstrate all 5. And so they don't know which ones that they have, and they get them as they sit down. They'll get 1 minute at the contest. So they'll get up on stage. They're going to get their item of business and their assigned ability. They have 1 minute to think about it, and then they have to start. And so there's not a lot of prep time, a lot of quick thinking. And of course, they get judged based on their debate as well. So they have to be able to convince the others sitting at the table to vote on their side, as well as plan a blood drive in this case. So I'll let them demonstrate, and you can see what it's like and kind of how they use parliamentary procedure. We use it at every single one of our chapter meetings. We're very efficient. Our agendas are typically really long because, we operate all year long as an FFA chapter with a lot of activities. Some of these ladies are our officers, and they are the #1 FFA chapter in Michigan this year. So they won that title last year, and we get to hold on to that until March. And part of it is because of what they do in and outside of the classroom. So I'll let our president, Caitlin Henney, take over. They get to watch a clock, so I'm going to time them.
Is there any further business to be presented to the Assembly at this time?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Newland.
I move that our chapter organize a blood drive at our school.
Second.
And object to the consideration of the question.
An objection to the consideration of the question has been called. Shall the question be considered? All those in favor of considering the question, please stand. Please be seated. All opposed, please stand. Please be seated. Since a 2/3 negative vote was not met, the question shall be heard.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Newland.
I urge the Assembly to adopt this motion. Part of the FFA motto is living to serve. This is a way we can serve people outside of our community and all over the United States by this blood drive. So please join me in passing this motion.
Madam Chair. Ms. Higglemeier.
Fellow members, I am against this motion. Prior proper planning prevents poor performance, and our FFA chapter chooses to follow that motto. At the beginning of each year, we set our POA, and this was not set in our POA. This would make this blood drive inefficient and not executed correctly. So please join me in failing this motion.
Madam Chair. Ms. Brown.
I encourage you all to adopt this motion. There are so many people that are in need of blood that we can help get around our community. Also, we have numerous students who are willing to donate. So please join me in passing this motion.
Madam Chair. Ms. Dyer.
I'm in favor of this motion. Our chapter has about 200 students that can fully plan this event in the allotted time. Therefore, we can provide blood to those people in need. I encourage the Assembly to pass this motion.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Camber.
adoption of this motion will not benefit our chapter. Instead of planning this blood drive, we need to plan something that will have a positive effect on our members, such as a career night that could open their eyes to an agricultural career. So I encourage you to fail this motion.
I rise to parliamentary inquiry.
Ms. Dyer, please state your inquiry.
How many votes in the affirmative does this motion take to pass?
Since this motion requires a majority vote and there are 5 members present, it would take 3 votes in the affirmative to pass this motion.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Newland.
I implore you to pass this motion. We could ask our alumni to help oversee this event. They are stakeholders in our chapter and care about us. They are always willing to oversee things as they are very responsible. So move to pass this motion.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Hagelmeyer.
I move to postpone this motion indefinitely.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to postpone this motion indefinitely. Is there any debate?
Madam Chair.
Ms. Hagelmeyer.
I propose this postponement because our chapter committees are who plans the events individually. And since our committees have all already been assigned their events, and it is a rule that our committees must have these events by the beginning of the school year, this would not be an effective event. So please join me in failing this motion.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Dyer.
I'm against this postponement. You hear on the radio every day that more and more people are in need of blood. If we host this event, we can help supply those people, and they can live their lives as they are meant to be. Therefore, I hope the Assembly fails this postponement.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Camber.
I'm in favor of this postponement. We need to kill this motion. Our school's National Honor Society already does a blood drive at the end of the school year, and this could be a conflict for our members. So I encourage you to fail this motion. Passes.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Brown.
I encourage you to fail this postponement indefinitely. We can also partner with our National Honor Society to make it a bigger event and get more people involved. So please join me in failing this postponement.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Newland.
I urge the Assembly to fail this postponement indefinitely. This is an essential motion to growing our leaders of our FFA chapter. So I urge you all to fail this postponement indefinitely.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Dyer.
I encourage the Assembly to fail this postponement. Our facilities at our school are large enough that we can host a blood drive that will benefit many people. We can host it in the gym, cafeteria, or any classrooms that aren't having class at that time. Therefore, I hope the Assembly fails this postponement.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Camber.
I am still in favor of this postponement. We can use all of our time to plan our upcoming Green Hand initiation, which is a huge event for our chapter and requires a lot of time planning. So I encourage you to pass this postponement.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Newland.
I move the previous question on the pending question.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to move the previous question. Since this motion requires a two-thirds vote, we will now proceed to vote by standing. All those in favor of moving the previous question, please stand. Please be seated. All opposed, please stand. The vote is 5-0. Previous question passes. We will now take an immediate vote on the postpone indefinitely. All those in favor of postponing this motion indefinitely, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no.
No.
The noes have it. Postpone indefinitely fails. Division of the Assembly has been called. We will now proceed to revote by standing. All those in favor of postponing this motion indefinitely, please stand. Please be seated. All opposed, please stand. Please be seated. The vote is 2-3. Postpone indefinitely fails. Is there any further debate on the main motion?
Madam Chair,
Ms. Hagelmeyer.
as I said before, I am against this motion. Most of the members in our high school are under the age of 16, and you cannot give blood without parent permission if you are under the age of 16. So this would not be beneficial to the Red Cross to give, because we would not have enough members to donate to the blood drive. So please join me in failing the motion.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Brown.
I encourage you all to vote yes on this motion. Our chapter has enough money in the budget to purchase snacks for after the people donate blood to make sure that their sugar doesn't crash. So please join me in passing this motion.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Dyer.
I'm in favor of this motion. Our chapter reporter can post an article in our social media and the local newspaper advertising our blood drive event to our community members, opening up to more people, and therefore getting more blood for the blood drive. I encourage the Assembly to pass this motion.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Newland.
I move to extend the limits of debate to 3 debates per member on the pending question.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to extend the limits of debate on the pending question to 3 debates per member. Are there any amendments? Hearing none, we shall now proceed to vote. All those in favor of extending the limits of debate to 3 debates per member on the pending question, please stand. Please be seated. All opposed, please stand. Please be seated. Since a two-thirds vote was not met, extend limits of debate fails.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Camber.
I am still against this motion. As it was said before, our chapter has 200 members, and we need to focus on events that can include all 200 of these members instead of a select few. So I encourage you to fail this motion.
Is there any further debate? Hearing none, we shall now proceed to vote. All those in favor of our chapter organizing a blood drive at our school, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, opposed, please say no.
No.
The ayes have it, motion passes. Our chapter will organize a blood drive at our school.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Brown.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. The ayes have it, this meeting is adjourned. Honorable Timekeeper, this now concludes our presentation.
So there you have it. That's essentially their contest. They added a few other abilities to demonstrate, and you saw a previous question, and they also did a division of the assembly, and so they get points for adding these extra abilities to demonstrate. But so this is kind of just a tidbit of what they do in the FFA in terms of parliamentary procedure, and they do a lot of other contests, public speaking, and serve our community as well. So do you have any questions for them? Well, hopefully I have, oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, you do it just like we do. Other than the up and down ledge exercise. But, I would comment that in 25 years of doing this, I've never seen anyone do it the way you guys can do it. I mean, literally in real life, it's just...
They have to go fast.
They have to go fast, and it's like, wow, you really got to know your rules. And whereas we would be pulling out the book, wait a minute, hang on a second here, which is not the way to do it. So that's wonderful that you can do that. Thank you.
All right, well, hopefully we have, we're looking forward to competing and having 6 certified parliamentarians in Jackson County next year, and so keep that in mind. So as we, if you ever need a certified parliamentarian, hopefully we've got 6 of them that come out of the program, and so I think they're definitely on their way. They have a lot of knowledge up there, so. Well, thank you for your time. We appreciate it, and I got to get them back to class.
Any other items for discussion? Seeing nor hearing none. Any other public comment?
Good day, Peter Bournemouth. With regard to both the leasing program and the purchase of new vehicles, I'd like to encourage the administrator and the heads of departments to consider hybrid vehicles and possibly electric vehicles as well when you go to purchase these vehicles. I heard about nurse cars. Those are perfect vehicles for nurses. They have lots of space in the back. I drive a Prius myself. I have almost no maintenance costs. The vehicle runs well. It's at 150,000 miles. So I just encourage you to explore those options for additional fuel economy, additional efficiency, and the fact that, some of these vehicles that are coming out are extremely good cars, electric cars, and you could easily charge them. I don't believe the cars would need to leave Jackson County and probably wouldn't drive over the 300-mile or 275-mile charging limit, so they would be useful to you. I just hope that you'll inquire into that and look into that. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Commissioner comments? Seeing none, we are adjourned.